You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Hello and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. My name is Ashleigh King and I'm the host of this podcast and video series. I'm really excited to have the amazing Jeni Smith here today with me at Flamingo Heights. So we're going to have a wonderful chat and I'm so happy to have you here. Thanks, Jeni, for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Ashleigh. It's on my bucket list to be coming into Flamingo Heights. I love it.
What a crazy idea to have like that on someone's bucket list. I mean, it wasn't even on my bucket list to have a studio, so it's a bit now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, thank you for coming in. So what have you been doing today?
Today's been a really good day. As you know, like running a business, it's never the same, which is part of the joy. Some days aren't as good as others, but today was definitely a good one. So this morning, up early, got to play with my little girl for a little bit. We had a tea party, and then did some admin work. I feel better. I've realised that I work better first thing in the morning. So got a bunch of admin stuff done out the way, then had brunch with an old friend, colleague. So we talked a bit about work, a bit about just general catch up. Then back home, and I had another friend of mine come over who's like a super talented writer, and she's doing all the copy for my new website. So the website's getting revamped and relaunched. So that was really, I like to have those creative conversations with people, especially like people that are super talented like her. So that was great. And then obviously got to come in and see the flamingos and get to chat to you. It's a great day.
It is great. And I love that you've had a tea party this morning because we're having a tea party now. So that's wonderful. And and I love that you doing work that lights you up. It's funny what you said about paperwork in the morning, and I actually do my paperwork often at like 3 a.m. I just get really, really clear. Like, I'm so alert and have so much clarity at 3 a.m. However, it doesn't always fit in with everyone else's lives. So it was great during the COVID lockdown because, you know, you could work whenever you wanted. But what I find now is having a public space, like having a studio, a workspace, you've got to be open at times, you know, you've got to, so actually you can't, you know, work at 3 a.m. because then you need to sleep sometime. So occasionally I wake up and I've got this amazing spark of creativity and I'll probably write like 10 poems or write a chapter of my book. I'm writing a book at the moment. But it's like few and far between, and I try and contain that mania. In a way that's useful rather than just scrolling on my phone.
Yeah, but when you have that, I think it's so important to recognize that you've got it and then take advantage of it.
Yes,
because like that's a gift. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, get it, take hold of it, and just run with it. Yeah,
exactly. So, speaking of all that, you know, you've had a great day. You've been doing work that really lights you up. What about the stuff you don't like?
Oh yeah, so for me, the admin stuff, the admin paperwork. HMRC scared the bejesus out of us. That kind of compliance stuff's like really gets me anxious. So I'll outsource that now. I had a business years ago and I just made it up as I went along, and like I was young, and that's not an excuse, but still I was just kind of playing in it, and that caused me so much stress. So this time around, I've very much learned from past mistakes, and I've got an accountant, I've got a great legal team that I use, and just finding the right people who are good at those things that I've recognized that I'm not, or that give me stress, and just outsource it. So that's absolutely my plan.
I love what you're talking about there. And I think there's something really valuable about that learning journey. So I, you know, identify with you. When I first started my business 3 years ago, it was an events company. It was a failing business. I wasn't confident to ask for what I wanted. And also I hadn't done any market research. So I wanted to do upcycled, you know, very environmentally friendly kind of weddings and wedding planning. But there wasn't really a market for it. There may be more of a market for it now because people are more switched on to environmental stuff. But at the same time, when I did do some market research during my MBA, there's only 2% of people in the northeast of England who are getting married.
Oh,
and
right.
usually they want a luxury wedding.
Yeah.
Or if they're going to do their own thing, then they want to go through the journey themselves of exploring it and experiencing it and upcycling or sourcing and finding things. So it was just never really going to be what I had envisioned. But I think what I also found is, you know, it's like when we don't take ourselves seriously, and as you said before, you played at your business in your first time.
Oh, yeah.
If you can outsource the things that you hate or you don't like or you don't understand,
yes,
learn what you can, but use your skills and gifts towards, you know, the things that you can do so well.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I feel like it's never a waste of time, but it can be a waste of really precious gifts and energy to put all of that elsewhere. I do think there's a value though to having a broad range of knowledge about topics.
Absolutely.
And that can be good.
And it's good to learn, but at the same time, you don't have to be an expert in everything. And this is where like having a diverse network comes in. So building a diverse network of people who are experts in different fields, it means that you can learn. So you learn enough to be able to be confidently like understand whether that's your finance element of the business or legal side or social media or whatever it is, but you don't have to become an expert in all of them. No one's got the time to do that. That's why having that network allows you to pull in from different experts and different people who are passionate about that subject, because I'm not passionate about finance, but other people are. So bring them in.
Exactly. You want someone, well, I mean, so I did my neurolinguistic programming coaching training recently, and I loved it. And one of the things that we discovered was everyone has different values and everyone has different value levels, and there's no right or wrong value level, but your accountants will have a very different set of values and what drives them in work and in their life to maybe somebody who is working in a community interest company, or maybe building schools or teaching language, or an activist. Everyone that you meet will have different values that govern how they view things and how they do things. And actually you want your accountant to be the kind of person who is meticulous and knows their stuff,
the detail,
you know, and I think there is definitely something about taking responsibility for your business and for your work. And I mean, I wanted to ask you a bit about your business, because for anyone who doesn't know Jeni, and you can say better about what you do, but from the outside looking in, I remember when you first started with NetKno, so you were, you know, doing all the stuff about strategic networking, and I thought to myself, gosh, this is such an unusual concept. I just never heard of it before. So the concept of talking, like going and doing public speaking or training about networking, that I could understand. And I just, what I was completely struck by when all that was going on was how innovative it was. So at the time you were launching all of that, I was doing my MBA at Newcastle University Business School. So I know we spoke on a couple of panels and things like that together. But also, you came to our hackathon. So as a group of MBA students, we had to go around and talk to different people. And what I loved about your work and also the sessions you ran for the MBA students was just how fun it was, how interactive, you know, and it's just like, I never thought that there would be like so much interest in networking training, because to me, that's like something that comes so naturally, a bit like with me with public speaking or podcasting or interviewing. So many people are contacting me now saying, hey, can you do confidence coaching or one-to-one public speaking coaching? And I'm thinking, really? Why? And but that's something I find easy. So I have been struck, and struck is the right word. Like, I'm so excited for you, and I'm so like, it's wonderful to watch. But I'm just curious about like, how did you even realize there was such an untapped and underserved market in that area? Yeah,
totally agree. To be honest, I didn't realize the market that was there or what it looked like like before launching. And it's only been 2 years since NetKno launched, and just the kind of the journey that I'm on, that the business is on, is a bit bonkers but wonderful, and it's changing all the time. And I was just talking to someone about this the other day. So originally, like wind back 16 years when I first started networking. I was in Liverpool, I was at university, and I did some voluntary work at a company, and he took me along to my first networking event. No one had told me about it, because no one tells you about networking. You just get thrown in a room full of strangers and expected to know how to talk to them. And I was terrified, hid in the toilets most of the night. I was pretty hungover as well, which didn't help the situation. But I think it was the third event I went to, I eventually plucked up the courage to go and talk to another human. And then I just fell in love with networking and quickly realized that networking was a massive part of the business scene in Liverpool back then, still is now. Realized that lots of people didn't like it or didn't know how to do it or didn't have time to do it. So that's when I launched my first business, which is a job I invented, which was going networking full time on behalf of a lot of different people that didn't like it, didn't have time. So I would do like a corporate analysis of their business, get to know them, product, services, target market. And then I was going to like 5-6 events every day, Monday to Friday, on behalf of a lot of different people. And that was something that it was so much fun. I didn't sleep for a year, didn't pay for food or wine for a year. It was fantastic. But after a year, I was like, I cannot talk to another person. I'm going to just sit in a dark room and rock myself to sleep for a bit. But that was something I tried to, so monetizing networking's always been a bit of a challenge, and networks struggle with it now. It's quite a difficult thing to do. So that was my first attempt. Second attempt was moving back to Carlisle, where I'm originally from, and taking what I'd learned attending events and hosting them. So founded and launched a network, a membership network. Again, really tough. People there at the time networked, but they didn't realize they did. Fast forward a few years, and once some of the big businesses started getting involved, it got a bit easier, but still 5 years of that. It went well, it was really good, but again, it was never going to set the world on fire. Fast forward to NetKno now, and some like academic research into a networking ecosystem I created in the middle. I knew that people didn't like networking, not like you're a natural networker, but a lot of people aren't. Plus throw in the fact that the digital adoption's massively affecting how we communicate. It's impacting especially young people's ability to have in real time conversations in person. It terrifies the life out of them. And then now throw in the fact that for 2 years, we literally weren't allowed to talk to other humans. So we had to talk through screens. Our natural skills and ability to network has just plummeted, and it continues to do so. And there's a lot of academic research into it. And that's it impacts us, us as individuals, our career progression, opportunities, our businesses. But deeper than that, it impacts our mental, emotional health. And we're not having the same meaningful connections. We're not building those same meaningful connections as we used to. And that really affects us. It's something we all crave, and we look for it in our phones, but we can never find it. So we look deeper in our phones, and we want more likes and more comments and more engagement and followers. But actually what we really need is just to have a strong network of people that we trust. So launching NetKno, it started off as I wanted to share my experience of networking and help empower people to be able to go out and network and do it in a strategic manner. But actually it's evolved into so much more, and I'm doing a lot more with young people, like 16-year-olds, like teaching them how to network. But actually what I'm teaching them to do is how to have a conversation and build relationships, and think about building relationships as something they should do in a strategic sense for their career, but actually for themselves and their emotional health as well.
It's really interesting what you're saying there, because you've talked about academic research around networking, and I'm really delighted to hear that there's a growing research in that area. But actually for a lot of people, I think the concept of looking at networking as a concept, they wouldn't necessarily go to academic research.
Yep.
So they would want to speak to someone they know, or read a blog, or go on Forbes or something like that. So to have someone that's accessible, that feels normal, that's nice and approachable, like yourself, that can like ring a bell in your training course that you do, which is fabulous, but actually hear really practical tips that they can use today. For instance, when we did it as MBA students, and I know you tailor your training to every one that you work with, but one of the things I found really interesting was we got some activities to practice and things, but also got the opportunity to get some tips about different types of events, structures, the way things happen, how to position yourself to join a conversation, how to exit a conversation if you need to, the old, I must go to the loo, I just need to catch this person over there, But I think there's a lot of really valuable tips. And I remember one of them being, like, how rude is it to be on your phone at a networking event? So that's one I think a lot of people make as a mistake. So, you've got fabulous notebooks, your NetKno notebooks, but, the concept of having a space to put your business cards in and keep them safe and note contacts. I always have a notebook because I'm a journalist, you got to have a notebook, keep the stories, keep the ideas. I've always got a poem somewhere and I just got to write it down then or I'll just forget it. But I think that is so good because you might just sit on your phone or stand on your phone and it just looks so rude, doesn't it? But also the types of activities, the types of events that you shared. I mean, some of those I've never gone to because I've just know they wouldn't be the right thing for me. But so for instance, your BNI networks where you have to be there every week at 6:30 a.m. or I'm not going to go to an event at 6:30 a.m. But also the structure, I think I would really struggle with. But knowing that there's different types of things, knowing that, with networking, for instance, it could be something like going and visiting a contact. It could be making a connection. It doesn't have to be. So for your introverts out there, I would love to know, for people who are not chatty naturally, how can introverts network?
So networking in an event situation is just a tiny part of what networking actually is. The real value often comes from nurturing those relationships. So introverts tend to get their energy from solitude, being on their own, or having more one-to-one intimate conversations. So if you are looking for networking events, if you're an introvert, look for events that have got structure, that allow and facilitate more one-to-one conversations rather than us extroverts get our energy from being around people. So if the room full of people networking, I love, but if you're introverted, that's going to be energy draining. And it's not that introverts are quiet necessarily or shy. They've got a lot to say, but they'll think before they say it and they prefer that one-to-one. So look for events that have got structure. They've got a focus to them. So they've got a topic or a theme or a speaker, and put more of your energy into those nurturing and one-to-one conversations. So going for a coffee, having a brunch like I did today, having a catch up with people, that is still networking. You don't have to put yourself in a painful situation to network. It's looking for different ways that suit you, that allow you to be consistent and authentic. Because if you try and force yourself to be this big extrovert networker, then that's going to come across as inauthentic, and that's not going to facilitate building trust. So you're doing yourself a disservice. So looking for things that suit you. Absolutely.
Yes, you're right. And actually, yes, you can. I think authenticity is really important. And sometimes you need to be brave and you need to sometimes use a persona if you're scared to do things or push yourself out your comfort zone. At the same time, I really believe that if you are not living in, as we might say, living in your truth or being yourself, sometimes that can be really challenging. Because,
absolutely.
Well, do you ever see this with all the events you run where it's almost like when you're not really yourself, it kind of makes people a bit suspicious, or there's something they just can't work out. I guess if you're thinking of spiritual stuff, it's energy or vibrations or something's just a bit off. And you're like, what's going on there?
And then you're not going to trust that person.
Exactly. But you don't know why. And it could be something that's just totally not connected to it at all.
Absolutely.
But you just have no idea of what that is. But you just can't.
You can't pinpoint it. It's like there's something not right, and then I just said you're doing yourself a disservice if you're putting yourself in that situation where you have to behave in that way. So you're better off looking for other ways of networking that allow you to be yourself, because again, looking for those meaningful connections and networking with purpose, you should be doing that as your authentic self, because you need to be consistent. It's definitely a long game building these long-term relationships, and it's not sustainable pretending to be someone that you're not. And people want to get to know the real you. They actually want to get to know who you are. So finding environments and ways in which you can be your true authentic self, that's going to do you like so much more like in the long run.
Absolutely. So I would love to know, so we know that people buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
So we've heard a bit about networking, but who's Jeni?
Who's Jeni? Oh, that's a big question,
It's
actually.
a big question.
Yeah.
I would like to know, who's the lady behind the fabulous shoes? Your shoes are not on camera, but they are
amazing.
They're very amazing. What do you like? What do you do? What inspires you? What lights you up? Aside from networking
And work, because I'm someone that I get so much like joy from work.
Same, yeah.
I could never not have a project or be working on creating something very similar in that way. I think as a person, like most people, as I've got older, really started figuring out who I am and what I enjoy and what I love. And I think a big shift for me happened about 4 years ago, when I actually started to take care of myself, probably for the first time. So I'm 37 now, very open with my age. I look fabulous for it, so it's fine.
You do look fabulous.
Thanks. And yeah, I started, it sounds really weird, and I don't know what it was. I think I'd read something or seen a video that was like, if you make your bed in the morning, that's the first act of kind of feeling productive, and it sets you up for the day and stuff. And I remember I made my bed on the morning and I folded my pajamas. It sounds really weird, but that night when I went to go to bed, I went to get my pajamas and they were there and they were folded and they looked beautiful. And I was like, oh, thanks, Jeni. Like, genuinely thanked myself for like this lovely little gift that I'd almost given myself. And it was that first little act of self-care that really just sparked this kind of spiral. I got a bit, not obsessed, but I don't think obsession's a bad thing. But then I started being like, right, looked at my present life and was like, right, what do I love? What don't I love about my life right now? And first thing I did was quit smoking. So I used to smoke. I smoked from the age of 18. I lived in Fiji with nuns for a bit. Other story. But smoking there, everyone smoked and it was like really cheap. So I started smoking. Stupid thing, but I did. So I quit smoking. Never smoked a cigarette since. Went cold turkey. And then about a month after that, that really like changed me physically, and I felt better and emotionally. I felt really like proud of that achievement, because it's a hard thing to do, quit smoking. But the next thing was even bigger, and that was looking at my relationship with alcohol and quitting drinking. And I've been sober for over 4 years now. I've got my alcohol-free or sober AF tattoo over 4 years ago. And that was really that was a pivotal point for me. And I don't think it was until I stopped drinking that I realized what a negative impact it was having on my life. And it's not like I would get up in the morning and drink. It wasn't like that. It was more like when I had a drink, I couldn't not have a second or third. I was never one of those people that could just have one. And the hangovers as I got older, the anxiety, it really impacted my like mental health. So walking away from that was a big decision, because it was really ingrained in my life. Like, me and my husband would go out on weekends and we'd go for meals and we'd go drinking, and we didn't have kids then, so it was like, it was part of what we did socially with friends. So it was a big change. And I remember saying to my husband, I got a bit upset at the time, and I was scared to tell him, and said, look, I'm thinking of giving up alcohol, like, how, it's going to change our lives. And I was like, will you still love me? It sounds really daft now, but I said, will you still love me? And he was like, oh, I'd love you even more. And he was just so lovely. And that again was really, that's a decision that, it's not like quitting smoking where people go, oh, that's amazing, and they're really supportive. When you quit alcohol, you have to explain it, and you have to quit like all the time, like every social situation. And
it's like, are you not drinking because you're
expecting?
Are
you pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not pregnant. No, I'm not on any, painkillers or nothing like that. I'm like, and they're like, well, how long for? I'm like, well, hopefully forever, but I'll see how I go, kind of thing. But I didn't quit thinking I'd quit forever. I quit thinking I'll see what happens. But it was just the best thing for me, for my relationship with myself, with husbands and friends and family. And that was a catalyst again for just looking for other things that I could do to give myself joy. And I did a night course, then I did another night course. First one I did was British Sign Language. The next one I did was counselling, just to learn. And I found this new hunger for education and learning. And I became a mum. and then started this business, and obviously got through lockdown, which I'm so glad I did sober, because if I was a drinker, that would have been a nightmare, like being locked in a house. And now, you know, I've just applied to do my PhD, which hopefully I'm starting in October, and just all these things that I think, had it not been for those decisions early on, but it's like one thing at a time, then leads to another thing, which leads to another. And then earlier this year, I kind of felt like, right, I've sorted out my present. I've sorted out stuff in my life now. How else can I better myself? I think you get a bit addicted to this personal development stuff. It's something I'd never thought I'd say. But I then looked at and thought, right, I need to probably address some stuff from the past. So this year I took myself to a therapist, just not for anything particular, not like something bad happened, I need therapy. It was like, right, more like, you know, you go to the gym. I think of therapy as like, it's just like doing that, but for your emotions, for your health, and looking back at things that had happened to me in my past and addressing them, because I'd never addressed them. Like, I lost my dad when I was 10, and lots of like negative relationships, friendships, trauma, different things that happened that you just kind of pile up and don't address. And I went and I found an amazing therapist, and she was wonderful. And I saw her every week for about 3 months. And it was the most intense thing I've ever done. But it was by far the most amazing thing. Like, I learned so much about me, about who I am, and investing that time in getting to know yourself is just I wish I'd done it. Oh my gosh, I wish I'd done it when I was younger. But like, I'm so grateful that I've done it now. And just understanding why I react to certain situations, why I react the way I do to certain maybe trigger words or people or anything, or the barriers that I put up for myself to stop me from progressing in work or personally or whatever it is. I understand them now. And that power of being able to understand them, then you're just in control of it all. And it's just the best thing. So a big thing for me and who I am now is absolutely a result of past, which I'm owning, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from them, and just being on this kind of personal development journey, it's really exciting because you just don't know where it's going to go next. And that's awesome.
I love that. I love everything you're saying. I'm with you there. I love that you've given up alcohol. I'm seeing a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit more like, especially women.
Yeah, it's not something that I've done yet. I have done it times before, but you know, there are certain things that I've done or behaviors I've had in the past, including alcohol, where, you know, for a lot of my friends, they would go out and they would drink and they'd have a great time and they could have some drinks and that would be it.
Yeah.
But for me, I would use it to self-harm. Mm-hmm. You know, it would be a way to escape.
Absolutely.
It would be to numb things.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with women in trauma.
Yeah.
And switching
women
your brain off.
Yeah, but also it's that escapism from constantly thinking. And that's something that I do. I used to use that. And I didn't realize that, but I know that now. I used to use that as a way of just switching off the noise of thinking.
Yeah. But then the issue then can be the next few days.
Absolutely.
What did I say? What did I do?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
You know, or the friendships that you might be in. So I think it's really fascinating as well when you start to work on yourself, because that can sometimes adjust your friendships too.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes you find people will either gravitate more close to you or they'll move away, and that's okay. Yep. And actually what you learn is that it's all right to evolve, and you know, the Jeni that you are, you have been many colors, light and dark, and all the colors in between, you know. So but it's those shadows, it's the nuance of all of your parts of you that make you beautiful. You know, like a beautiful tea set with have you seen what is it called, the Japanese is it called karagi?
Oh, I don't know
how you say it. It's like where you have broken tea sets. I'm obsessed with tea sets.
Right, yeah.
And then like they glue them back together, all this beautiful, you know, porcelain, and then they use gold to like paint all the broken bits. So it's just stunning. And that to me is, whenever I see people that have been through something, I always value those stories the most. So I love that. And you know, you've shared a bit there about alcohol, but one of the things about Nurture Your Zest is I always say it's about overcoming the adversity we've been through, you know, the prickly situations in our life, how through courage, curiosity and creativity we can find inspiration to nurture your zest. Yeah. So what's felt prickly for you, you know, it could be now, it could be lockdown, it could be, you know, losing your dad at an early age. What has been something that's been tricky, but how did you overcome it? So what was the thing that kind of helped you to get through those tricky times?
Oh, so many to pick from. But I think that's what makes life like interesting, as well as, you know, I always try and think, you know, at least even if you're feeling sad, you're feeling something and it's an experience. So there's many things. I think the most recent, and it's something that I've talked very openly about on social media and something that I documented. I did a year in the life of a startup video, and I included it in there. We lost a baby at 11 weeks, that we've since called 11. They were due on the 11th of May as well this year. And that was something I was very open with. It's not something that I ever expected to experience. We've got a little girl, Juno, who's nearly 3, and it took us a while to get her, but once we did, then everything was kind of plain sailing. So when we got pregnant the second time, it was a shock, you know, to get you just at that 12 weeks and then it's taken away. And that experience really shook me and I think, again, when you run a business, people talk about, you know, personal life, professional life. It's just life. And when something happens in either aspect, it's going to impact the other. And you don't like break down your life into these little boxes. And if something happens in one, it doesn't affect the next, or it does. And that's why, one, I included that in that film. 2, I've talked about it on social media. The outpouring I had, and I put it on social to share the story, to raise awareness, but also like just to put it out there so that people kind of understood maybe a little bit of what I was going on. And it reached over 2 million people. I had especially men from all over the world reaching out. And this was from LinkedIn. So this is that, you know, the professional platform. And my kind of thought process and sharing it on there is, yes, this is a professional platform and you're on my professional network, but you are people that need to know me. And this is something that's happened. And I wanted to recognize that it happened rather than just pretend it didn't, because I think that's often too much the case, especially in this situation. But yeah, the outpouring of people was just unbelievable, which really helped. That really helped me through. Hearing stories, like heartbreaking stories from people who lost children way further down the line, but also hearing stories of loss that was followed by rainbow babies and joy and just hope, a lot of that. And I think had I not shared that with my network, it comes back to networking again, but relationships with people are genuinely what has and always has got me through any bad thing. And the first step is to communicate about it. And we often just bottle it in, or we feel like we shouldn't maybe share that there because we might get judged or it's not appropriate or whatever. If you feel like that's being authentic to you and being honest, then you share it, you talk about it. And I will bet 9 times out of 10 by sharing, you are either helping yourself or helping others. And that's what I feel got me through that situation. And that's definitely something I would do again.
I'm so grateful that you did share that. I remember reading it and just feeling, you know, just, I don't know what I was feeling, just in, you know, sad and wanting to support. And you don't want to, it's not pity, it's not that at all. It's like a, oh my gosh, you're going through, like compassion, I guess. That's a good term. At the same time, I also felt relieved because, you know, you happy to share about your age. You're 37. I'm 34 tomorrow. It's my birthday. I'm so excited.
Oh, I would have got cake.
Oh, a you cake. Did bring cake. You brought
the little donut things, donuts. But I would have got a proper one.
No. No. But thank you. But my point is, you know, just the idea of talking about motherhood, you know, even the concept of being a mom and an entrepreneur, it just blows my mind that's even a thing. Like that could even be possible, because it's just not something that, like, I know that is possible. It's just how does it work? What are the steps? You know, how do you fund that? How do you look after a baby and nappies and all this kind of thing? And then, you know, also look after your clients and whatever you're doing. So I think more conversations from female entrepreneurs around things like motherhood, around miscarriage, around, you know, juggling. But also at the same time, it's sad to me that those are still conversations that we ask a lot. So if you go to lots of, you know, networking events, there's often questions to high profile women. How do you do it? You know, and
but men don't get those questions.
They don't. But at the same time, it's something that's still so valuable to know, because I still look and I'm like, how do you do it? But I'm also sad that we still need to have those questions. Absolutely. You know, so it's an interesting one.
It's a whole other podcast.
It is. I know we'll have to have you on again.
No, it is a very, it's a subject close to my heart. It's something I'm passionate about. It's even just working mothers in general, entrepreneurship aside, it's a crazy, the world's not designed for it, but that's where we've got to just change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I believe you can.
Yeah.
So, I've got to ask the last question, my fave. So what's your number one word to nurture your zest?
Oh, number one word? Yes. Just one word. Oh, Ashleigh.
I know. Everyone has that reaction. Well, some version of it. Yeah, really? That's tough.
It is a tough one, because there's so many just lovely things to choose from. Honesty. I think honesty with yourself. That's really difficult. But once you've got that nailed, then it's so much easier to be honest with other people. And just that, being honest about what you want, about who you are, about what you like, what you don't like. And that's, I think, probably the key to finding fulfillment and happiness and joy, and just being honest. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I like that. Honesty. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.